Imagine this. You're all set for a first-class flight, but when you take your seat, you're told to move to coach, simply because of how you look. This happened to two young black girls, Amara and Alia, who were humiliated in front of a plane full of passengers. But what happened next? A single phone call to their powerful CEO father not only changed everything, but it also grounded the entire plane. Want to know how? Stay tuned, because this story is about to blow your mind. If you're part of the Black Visionaries family, hit that like button right now and subscribe for more jaw-dropping stories like this one. The hum of the airplane's engines faded into the background as the twins, Amara and Alia, settled into their plush first-class seats. They had been looking forward to this flight for weeks. It wasn't just any regular flight, it was the beginning of an exciting trip to New York, where they would visit some of the most exclusive spots and enjoy the luxury of city life. For Amara and Alia, flying first class was just part of their lifestyle. They had grown up surrounded by the best things money could buy, their father being the CEO of a major tech company. Amara, the more outgoing twin, adjusted her designer jacket and flashed a confident smile, while Alia, the more reserved one, settled quietly into her seat. She had always been the more introspective of the two, more content with being unnoticed. But when they boarded the plane, it was clear that both of them were ready to enjoy the high-end luxury they had earned. The flight attendants moved through the aisles, greeting passengers with their professional smiles. They did their usual checks, ensuring that everyone was comfortable and settled. That was until one flight attendant made her way down the aisle and approached the twins. "Excuse me," the flight attendant said in a tone that was unnecessarily cold. "You can't sit here." Amara blinked, confused. "What do you mean we can't sit here?" She looked at the seat numbers on their boarding passes, then back at the attendant. "We're in first class. This is our seat." The flight attendant's eyes narrowed. "This isn't where you belong," she replied curtly. "You need to go back to coach." For a moment, Amara thought she might be hearing things. This couldn't be happening. It was absurd. The twins had been flying first class for years, always treated with respect. They had the tickets, the seat assignments, and everything checked off. But there it was, in front of them, a flight attendant who seemed intent on making them feel unwelcome. "Are you seriously telling us we can't sit here because of how we look?" Amara asked, her voice rising slightly. She was getting upset now. "We've paid for these tickets just like everyone else." The attendant's expression didn't soften. Instead, she seemed even more firm in her stance. "I said you need to go back to coach," she repeated. Alia, who had been quietly observing the exchange, finally stood up. She wasn't one to make a scene, but the injustice was too much. "This is ridiculous," she muttered under her breath. "Why are we being singled out?" Amara pressed, her eyes locking with the attendant. "This doesn't make sense." The other passengers were starting to notice the conversation, their eyes flicking toward the interaction. It was impossible to ignore. The twins felt all eyes on them, and that only fueled the frustration building inside them. The tension was palpable. It wasn't just about a seat anymore, it was about something deeper, something that struck a nerve. Amara and Alia weren't just being told to leave their seats, they were being treated as if they didn't belong. And they weren't about to let that slide. Amara's heart was racing now. She had to do something. Without saying a word, she pulled out her phone and dialed her father's number. She knew that her dad would handle this. He always had a way of making things right. "Dad, you won't believe what's happening," Amara said when her father picked up the phone. She quickly explained the situation, how they had been denied their seats in first class and were being told to move to coach. She told him how they had tried to reason with the flight attendant, but nothing was working. "Give me a moment, Amara." Her father's voice was calm but stern. "I'll make a call and handle this." Amara was relieved to hear that. She knew her father was the type of person who could get things done, no matter how complicated or urgent the issue was. She trusted him to resolve this quickly. She hung up the phone. She felt a small sense of hope. She wasn't going to let this issue go. She wasn't going to let her sister or anyone else be treated like this. They both deserved respect, and Amara was determined to make sure they got it. A few minutes later, the plane's cabin grew still as the passengers noticed a shift in the atmosphere. The flight attendants started whispering among themselves, and there was a noticeable tension. It wasn't long before the captain's voice came over the intercom, announcing that there would be a delay and asking everyone to remain seated. Amara and Alia exchanged confused glances. What was going on? Why was the plane being delayed? It had only been a few minutes since they had taken off. Was there an emergency? Then, to everyone's surprise, the captain's voice came over the intercom once again, but this time the tone was more serious. Attention, passengers, we have been instructed to ground the plane for a short time. Please remain calm. We apologize for the delay, but we'll be taking care of this situation shortly. Amara's heart skipped a beat. She knew what was happening. Her father had made a call, and now the plane was being delayed because of the incident. Sure enough, the door to the cockpit opened, and the captain emerged, flanked by two security personnel. The flight attendants' faces were pale, and they looked as if they had just been caught doing something wrong. The captain walked straight toward the first-class cabin where the twins were sitting. When he reached them, he paused and turned to the flight attendants. "Ladies, I apologize for the inconvenience," the captain said. His voice was calm, but there was no mistaking the authority in it. "There's been a misunderstanding, and it's been resolved. You are welcome to stay in your first-class seats for the remainder of the flight." The flight attendants stood frozen for a moment, clearly flustered. One of them stammered an apology, but it was clear that the captain wasn't finished. He turned back to the flight attendants, giving them a look that said it all. "We'll be discussing proper procedures later," he added, before turning to Amara and Alia. "Again, my sincerest apologies for this. You have every right to be in these seats. Thank you for your patience." The twins sat back in their seats, a wave of relief washing over them. It wasn't just the apology that mattered. It was the fact that they had stood their ground. They hadn't let the situation slide. They hadn't let the injustice go unnoticed. As the plane finally took off, the tension in the cabin began to fade. The flight continued without incident, but the twins couldn't help but feel a deep sense of pride. They had faced a moment of unfairness and fought back with the one thing they knew would work: their voice. And with their father's help, they had turned the situation around. When the plane landed in New York, Amara and Alia stood up to collect their things. As they walked off the plane, Amara turned to her sister and smiled. "We did it," she said quietly. "We stood up for ourselves, and we won." Alia nodded, her expression thoughtful. "This won't be the last time we have to do something like this." Amara grinned. "No, it won't. But we'll always be ready for it." The twins walked into the terminal, ready to take on whatever challenges lay ahead. They knew they had the power to change things, and they weren't afraid to use it. If you're part of the Black Visionaries family, smash that like button and hit subscribe right now. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. This story was just the beginning, and we've got even more shocking, jaw-dropping moments lined up that'll leave you speechless. Drop a comment, share this with your friends, and let's keep growing this amazing community together. Stay tuned, because with the CEO involved, you won't believe what happens next.